Hi, folks. Democrats spent years perfecting the art of cancel culture, tossing people off air for a bad joke, a 10-year-old tweet, or even just the wrong opinion. But the second there's a little accountability for their own lies, they melt faster than a soy candle at a gender studies retreat. Because in case you missed it, here's what happened. Yesterday, Jimmy Kimmel was suspended indefinitely after comments he made about Charlie Kirk's assassination. On his show, he flat out claimed that the killer was some MAGA conservative type, echoing a Reddit fever dream. But the facts are clear. The shooter's parents said he'd gone hard left, pro-LGBTQ activism and all, and he even told his trans partner he targeted Kirk for spreading hatred. He also wrote anti-fascist phrases on his bullets, echoing things said by Democrats themselves. So I don't think anybody's seeing a MAGA hat in sight, just another leftist extremist with a gun and a grudge. And yet Kimmel spun the story the exact opposite way, because Democrats never let reality get in the way of a good narrative. So thus, the FCC stepped in, calling Kimmel's smear some of the sickest conduct possible and an intentional attempt to mislead the public in a volatile moment. And that was the last straw for ABC, who pulled the plug. Affiliates refused to air him, and suddenly the same media class that cheered Tucker Carlson getting canned and Roseanne Barr being canceled is screaming censorship. In other words, when they cancel you, it's justice. When they get canceled, it's fascism. The meltdown is priceless.
Fear has a domino effect. You have a late night comedian who his first reaction to the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk, as Elizabeth just laid out, was to say, my wife and I's thoughts go out to that family. What a horrible thing, right? Made very clear where he stood. By the way, hardcore free speech advocates would say that isn't even a caveat that is needed in this conversation, okay? But I'm just making the point that he had taken that stance. He comes out the other night and he merely, as a late night comedian could do, said,
what? By
the way, no one knows the full facts about this assassin.
What?
And says, well, it could be this, and
that's not what he said.
Could be MAGA.
CNN has clearly learned nothing, because here they are, not only recharacterizing what Kimmel said, but completely misconstruing his statements. Kimmel didn't say it was maybe MAGA. He said it was MAGA. And let's be clear, this wasn't just an out-of-context joke, because there was no punchline. What's the joke in calling the killer MAGA? What's the humor in dragging that into the conversation at all? The truth is, there was none. And now Democrats suddenly want to cry about a chilling effect? Well, that's rich, considering they've been running the same playbook against conservatives for over a decade, deplatforming, demonetizing, and silencing anyone who doesn't fit their narrative. The reality is, folks, these people are scared. They're scared they can't go on television anymore and blatantly lie to you. For years, long before this, there's been zero accountability. But for at least the last decade, it's been especially brazen, pure propaganda dressed up as news. See, ever since Obama gutted the Smith-Mundt Act in 2013, removing the last real guardrails on government-funded propaganda, it's only gotten worse. Democrats had full control of the FCC for years and never enforced a shred of integrity in broadcasting standards. Now that there's finally some pushback, they're panicking, because for once, they're the ones facing the rules they wrote for everyone else. Now, look, I'm a free speech activist. I believe that as long as you're not inciting violence, all speech should be permissible, even if I don't agree with it. Even if I don't like what you're saying. That's the reality of living in a free country. But what Kimmel did was very different. While not a direct call to violence, his framing could inevitably lead to violence and escalation. Folks, we just saw a man publicly executed in front of thousands, in front of the whole world. A brutal assassination that, for anyone honest about the facts, was clearly fueled by leftist rhetoric, by the Democrat conversation. And yet Kimmel goes on television and blames Charlie Kirk's movement for the crime, effectively escalating the situation and gaslighting the public. This is the Democrat playbook, folks. They create the problem, they push a violent solution, then spin the story so the blame lands on their opponents. If that cycle continues with zero accountability, the end game is obvious. Civil war. Democrats can panic all they want about Kimmel's suspension, but the truth is they should be the first to condemn his comments. The FCC acted because Democrats long ago stopped holding each other accountable, choosing instead to focus on silencing conservatives until Fox News was practically the only mainstream outlet on the right, left, standing. If Democrats had policed their own rhetoric, Kimmel would still be on air today, likely. I can't say for sure, right? But instead, they cheer each other on, escalating the climate endlessly until someone loses their life. And here's the bottom line. If we can't even agree on the basic facts, coming out of an official FBI investigation, if we're going to lean on Reddit conspiracy theories to claim the moral high ground while villainizing the other side, then America will truly fall apart. This could have been a moment where Democrats say, hey, we've gone too far with this rhetoric. But they won't, because they're too invested in power to even admit it.
It is outrageous. It's a page right out of Xi's playbook.
Oh, my God, dude.
This is just despicable, disgusting, and against democratic values. Trump and his allies seem to want to shut down speech that they don't like to hear. That is not what democracies do. That is what autocracies do. And it doesn't matter whether you agree with Kimmel or not. He has the right to free speech. And so it is just outrageous. It is indicative of autocracy. And I am just outraged by it. Again, this is what dictators do. This is what Xi would do. This is what Putin would do. We are not that country.
This is rich, folks, because Schumer and Democrats have benefited from what I'd call McCarthy-level censorship of conservatives for the last decade. They've gone as far as to destroy entire businesses, to target conservatives ruthlessly year after year. And they've gotten away with it. They've gotten away with lying about conservatives, fabricating details, pushing narratives with zero grounding in truth, and this is exactly how we've ended up here. They now have an entire media apparatus that can manufacture reality out of thin air. Case in point, this whole narrative that the assassin was MAGA didn't start with facts. It started with the specific anonymous X account with over 5 million followers. They literally photoshopped the Trump logo onto Tyler Robinson's t-shirt and pushed it as evidence. That fake image raked up millions of views, while the original, which they posted in the thread, got only a fraction of that, about 50,000 views. It was a coordinated effort to give themselves plausible deniability while seeding a political lie, and it worked. Millions of people now believe Robinson was MAGA, despite all the evidence pointing to him being a leftist extremist. Democrats are weaponizing that lie to reinforce their favorite talking point that the greatest threat to America is white supremacy. But let's be clear, the greatest threat to America right now isn't some boogeyman on the right. It's Democrats themselves wielding institutional power from all sides, manufacturing rhetoric and crushing accountability at every turn.
The comment that got Jimmy Kimmel in trouble, it was not about the murder. Yeah. It was about he was criticizing, he was mocking the president and the president's political movement, MAGA. So what we have here is the administration cracking down on someone for criticizing them, which is much worse than the government cracking down for some sort of, offensive conduct relating to good taste. This is about criticism of the administration that is getting the network in trouble, and that's a much more sinister.
This is just a blatant lie. It was not criticism. The reason why Jeffrey Toobin is saying it's criticism is because criticism is protected speech. Satire and parody are protected speech. The reason why this doesn't fall under that category is because Jimmy Kimmel stated it as fact. And here's a clip to prove it.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving.
And there you have it, folks. There was no applause after what Kimmel said. There was no laughter, no wink, no kind of reaction that signals to the audience that this was a joke, satire, or parody. He stated it flatly as fact. His exact words were, "We hit some new lows over the weekend with a MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it." That's not parody. That's not criticism. That's an assertion. Criticism would be him saying MAGA types are spinning this or MAGA types are exploiting this. But that's not what he said. He presented it as settled truth. And when you present a lie as truth, you're not engaging in political commentary. You're literally manufacturing propaganda. This matters because rhetoric like this creates perception, and perception becomes reality for millions of viewers. When a nationally televised late-night host tells people the assassin was MAGA, it feeds directly into the Democrats' long-running narrative that white supremacy and Trump supporters are the single greatest threat to America. It validates the talking points used by these politicians, bureaucrats, and corporate media to justify further surveillance, more censorship of the right, and suppression of half of the country. And it's not an isolated mistake. It's part of a pattern where misinformation, so long as it serves the Democrats ends gets a free pass. So to call this direct falsehood criticism is itself a bad faith dodge. It's an attempt to blur the lines between commentary and disinformation so that accountability can never land on the Democrat side. That sleight of hand tells you everything about how their media operatives and their entire apparatus operates.
Isaac Asimov said that there's only 3 science fiction plots: what if only, and if this goes on. And unfortunately, we are at the dark end of if this goes on. That line that when we crossed it, we're all supposed to rise up, that's way, way behind us. So we can't just stand up anymore. We gotta roar up, screaming, and link arms.
You already doing
all
that,
of us.
dude.
This thing is coming for all of us.
No, it's not.
This is a ancient evil that is shooting its shot right now. It sees its window, and it's trying again. It's always going to try. We're always going to have to fight it. This is our time to fight it. And please, I can already see in the comments. Imagine in the comments people going, "Oh, you're this West Coast elite." I'm in the airport right now. I'm traveling to Austin today. I was in Raleigh last week. I'll be in Ohio next month. I'll be in Milwaukee. I'll be in Wisconsin next. I travel all over the country. I love traveling this country. I love this country, and I love meeting all the people here. And I meet people every day, every weekend doing comedy, and I know this is not what they voted for. Maybe they thought they were voting for something else. I know this is not what they were voting for. And everyone that's been saying, "Oh, I supported Trump, but this isn't what I voted for."
Nobody's saying that.
Your time.
Nobody's
to
saying
actually
that.
show that. Okay, please. This is an awesome country.
Yeah, it is.
This is an awesome country.
It's amazing.
And we're handing it over.
No, we're not.
To frightened, short-sighted. I don't even know what these people are. We're handing it
They're
over
Americans.
to the wrong people. And equally great countries have been handed over to frightened, petty people, and we got to stop it. And
we're frightened right now. What are you talking about?
That's it. Jesus.
Don't bring Jesus into this. Patton Oswalt's incoherent monologue is, let's be honest, a whole lot of cope, folks. There's nothing extraordinary happening here outside of Democrats finally facing consequences for their dishonesty. At some point, there has to be accountability. And if Oswalt really is traveling around the country and talking to everyday Americans like he claims, then he knows full well how angry people are around the country, how one-party Democrat rule in California, for example, has destabilized and nearly destroyed this state. So how can he, in good faith, stand in front of his phone and declare that ancient evil is rising without admitting that the real fear, the real chilling effect is coming from his own side? Just look at him. He's the one who's frightened, and he's talking about the right being frightened. People on the right aren't panicking, folks. We're just demanding equal treatment under the law and equal standards in public life. That's it. Isn't that something Democrats always pretend to care about? Where was Patton's outrage when Roseanne Barr was canceled, dropped by Disney for making a joke, whether you like that joke or not? Where was his speech about ancient evil when Tucker Carlson got pulled off the air and AOC was literally grinning ear to ear, calling it one of the greatest things to ever happen? Back then, Democrats celebrated. But now, Kimmel doesn't even make a joke. He flat out misrepresents an explosive, tragic situation for political gain, parroting propaganda instead of comedy. And suddenly, Democrats want to scream about free speech? Spare us the outrage, please. Nobody outside the echo chamber is actually buying any of it. For once, admit you're wrong and stop pretending accountability is some sort of tyranny. Now, look, folks, I'm not a fan of silencing anybody. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm really not a fan. I don't think it's a good thing to do, to be coming after people for their speech. I don't think it's honorable. I don't think it's the kind of thing that has good, lasting effects on society or culture in general. But we are past that point, unfortunately. We're at a point where Democrats have been allowed and enabled for over a decade to lie and say whatever they want with zero consequences while also punishing Republicans for simply telling the truth. They created this reality, folks. And that's not a reality any republic can exist in without dissolving and falling apart. So the real question is, how long can a system like that last before people completely lose faith in it? And there are many people who have completely given up and are apathetic. That's why the FCC enforcing its rules and Disney finally holding blatant inflammatory disinformation accountable is the beginning of the end result of a culture Democrats themselves created, perpetuated, and profited from. They built this system. They benefited from it. And now that accountability is returning, they're scared, panicking, because the chickens have come home to roost, folks. And it's truly unfortunate. I don't want anybody to lose their show or their business because of speech, but at some point, accountability has to start somewhere. And if not here, then where? If not now, then when? When Democrats start parading conservatives and getting them executed in college campuses purely for debating people? So unless Democrats start holding their own side accountable, unless the FCC, as they did, and networks, as they did, start looking honestly at what's being said and at least holding people responsible for their words, nothing will change. That doesn't mean policing or censoring every single word. It means recognizing when speech crosses from opinion into deliberate disinformation. And unless audiences start noticing the propaganda being shoveled at them and stop rewarding it with their views and their money, this situation will continue and it'll escalate further. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to keep funding the very people gaslighting you and lying to you? Or are you ready to withdraw your support and make them feel it where it counts? Because Democrats have been running rampant, folks. I'm working on a video that I'm going to post later this week on my other channel, looking at some of the most inflammatory statements made by streamers. Not even about Charlie Kirk, but just in the last few years. People openly calling for violence against half the country, justifying it morally because they believe they're on the right side of history. But let me tell you something, folks. The side calling for violence or carrying water for assassins is never on the right side of history. But you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.